Hello and welcome to Nikolai's genetics lessons, and today's question is: currently two extant elephant species X and Y are classified in the genus Loxodonta, and third species Z is placed in the genus Elephas. Thus, which statement should be true? And here's a variants to choose from. Question is pretty easy because two species X and Y are in the same genus, so of course they would be more closely related, and that means that answer A, species X and Y are not related to species Z, is wrong. They are related, but they more closely related to each other than to species Z. And let's check answer B. Species X and Y share greater number of homologies with each other than either does with species Z. And this is correct answer. Pretty easy. And I want you to take a look at this picture because all three variants are possible that describe this situation. And on your exam, you probably would find such phylogenetic tree like this or this one. And the question would be which species X, for example, in this case, is more closely related to Z or to Y. Or for example, here, Z and X very close. So does it mean that species X is more closely related to Z than to Y, for example? In first phylogenetic tree, it is pretty obvious that species X and Y are closely related. No questions about this. But for example, on the second phylogenetic tree, you see that the distance here is about the same. So does it mean that species X as closely related to species Y as to species Z? And actually, this is the wrong way how we consider the species closeness. Every time when we do such analysis, we start with recent common ancestor between species X and Y. It's going to be here, and this is going to be a distance between these two species. And the distance between species X and Z is going to be this distance. And as you see, it is much more greater than between species X and Y. So this triangle is much smaller than this triangle. And the distance from species Z to X is going to be the same as from Z to Y. So we compare this triangle and this triangle. And we do not care what is the distance going to be in this plane. And if we compare the third phylogenetic tree, species Z and X here looks like very close to each other. But again, if we compare the distance from species X to Y, and here is going to be a common ancestor, this triangle is much smaller than, for example, between species X and Z. And in other words, we can say that the distance is going to be the same as between species Z and Y. So as you see again, that this triangle is much smaller than this triangle or these passes, which are going to be the same length as this triangle. So species X and Y in this phylogenetic tree are much closer than species X and Z. Also, let's check the last two statements. C, species X and Y are a result of the artificial selection, has nothing to do with this problem. Nothing is said that the species undergo artificial selection. And statement D, species X and Y share common ancestor that is alive today. In all three phylogenetic trees, species Z, X, and Y had common ancestor here, but species Z is not an ancestor of species X and Y. It's going to be outgroup for species X and Y. So the only correct answer here is going to be answer B. Species X and Y share greater number of homologies with each other than either does with species Z. And this is all for today. Subscribe and see you in the next video. Goodbye.